Welcome back to What Are Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the King Tiger captured Tier 7 it's American premium heavy tank. It's located on the eastbourne of Safe Haven and it's under the command of Mike9063_1. Yes, my confusion about it being German or American was actually down to the fact that, well, the Germans did actually lose one in Aachen, one of the Tiger 2s, and it was captured by the Americans and used by them. They actually had to put huge markings and decals on it because otherwise a lot of the American people would think it was one of the Germans and take it out, even though it was actually captured intact and operating fully. It's armed with an 88mm gun, the same 88mm you'll find on the Tiger 1, and it's capable of doing 240 alpha, and it'll penetrate through 203mm of armor with standard ammo, and with the premium ammo it goes up to 237, and this ammo is fairly cheap, so he can do a lot of damage for relatively little cost. Good shot. Okay, well, he's got his book off with a high roll for 252 off that P43 Biz. Now, technically speaking, it's not a King Tiger because the true name was actually the Panzerkampfwagen 6 Aslains B, so it should be known as the Tiger B, not the Tiger 2 or the Tiger King Tiger, although those names that actually did stick. You can see the armour's actually fairly thick. That 90mm round just couldn't get through. In fact, it's sloped armour, very similar to the way that the Panther's armour is sloped, but it's basically still the same thicknesses that you find on the Tiger 1, but just slightly better because, of course, the angling. And we'll see that later on in the presentation on angling. It's actually fairly poor when it comes to mobility. Top speed of only 38 kilometers an hour, so it's basically like a slug when it's moving about the battlefield, but it's more to do with the armor. At this tier 7, it's actually quite an effective premium tank. The real Tiger 2 actually is a tier 8 tank, so of course he might be seeing tier 10 opponents in battle, whereas this one, a premium tank, you're not going to see those opponents at all. In fact, you're more likely to see opponents you can actually penetrate. Now, he's not, well, he did fire and he did get a pen there for 206. It's a very, very difficult angle to fire at that T29, but of course, remember, that's a tier 7 American heavy, a very good one, possibly the best tier 7 heavy in the game, but he still managed to pen it, even though it was heavily angled. Now, being a premium tank obviously means that you are going to get decent return for your damage, increased credits and increased XP, and he's getting good pens on that AMX M445, and the AMX M445 is actually based on this tank. It's based on the lessons they learned after the war. The French built the AMX M445 not on an M4 tank, but on the actual Tiger 2. Oh, that was Arty. Didn't suffer any damage, but we did get stunned. And just look how much we slowed down to about 20 kilometers an hour because of that. And, oh, well, the enemy tank on the other side of the wall, his gun's poking through, but he's not, and now he's about to get hold. Hello, Mr. ARL. Okay, there you go, one in your engine bay. Now, we did take one hit, but and another one from the T29, but the ARL's out the game. But we're badly angled against that T29 at the moment, so yeah, pull back in. That's better. You can see the shape of the turret actually does lend itself to bouncing rounds off. Now, if he backs up side scraping like this, a few rounds are more than likely going to bounce off the sides of the turret. Oh, well, that one didn't. That actually went in, and I think he got the hull with that shot, which is not good. But that was the idea behind it, to make the turret long and thin, to actually make rounds that were fired at it from the front to bounce off the vehicle, not to actually penetrate. It does have a weak spot on the roof, I'm afraid. Yeah, the roof of this tank is fairly thin and it's slightly angled downwards, which means that it is fairly easy to slot around in there. If you can get on the side of this vehicle, you can punch holes straight through the side of the turret, and we'll see that later on when you see the armor profile. It cost 300,000 man hours to build one of these, and it cost the Germans 800,000 Reichmarks, which is the equivalent in American money of $300,000. Quite a lot. In fact, when you consider it, the Americans could build, I think it was something like 8 M4s, 8 Shermans, for the price of one of these. And there, of course, is the mathematics of it all, the economy. Oh, nice shot on the M445. He got that one in. Low roll, but it did count. Yeah, this is where the Germans failed, I'm afraid. In the end, they just didn't realise that they were putting all their money on fairly capable tanks, obviously slow tanks. The engines weren't powered enough to actually make these things work. And they were, of course, technically crippled because, of course, they were overstressed. The engines were overstressed, the transmission was overstressed, the gearbox was overstressed. They were constantly breaking down. And as a consequence, these tanks weren't always 100% in ready for battle. And that made a big difference. Of course, if you have a load of Shermans, most of them are always ready for battle because there's plenty of spare parts available. But in the Germans' case, no, that wasn't the case. There was very few spare parts, and so logistics did let them down quite a bit. And one of the reasons why it's so sluggish, as I said, is mainly down to the engine. It's just overstressed. It's trying to do too much, and it just can't cope with it. Oh, when we lost sight of that guy, he is at the maximum range, and that's a hit. He's actually got 2,200 hit points of damage. Now he's probably got about 2,400 hit points. Oh, that P43 didn't like it and he fired one back, but he only got the tracks. Arty's firing. Yeah, we didn't get any warning, but obviously I heard the rumble in the distance. And that's about all you get nowadays. Warning that the shell's incoming with a rumble in the distance. Something they're learning in Ukraine at the moment, because they hear a rumble and most people will actually know if that one's headed towards them or to somebody else. But it's quite obvious sometimes that you hear that noise and you duck and cover quick because the enemy is firing one in your direction. Whereas a pair of Chechens were joking about the fact that coping with the Ukrainian mortar fire, and then a Ukrainian mortar round landed right next door to them or nearby and kicked them to the ground. I think one of them was injured actually, the one who was joking about Ukrainian mortar fire. So it's sort of like he was given a bit of hubris straight away. Well, we're one tank down on the enemy in this game, and he's having a hard time trying to get at those enemy tanks. Using these wrecks for cover at the moment. Now there doesn't appear to be anybody up there, but there is a VK3002M somewhere ahead of him. And over on, whoop, no, you're up against the back there. Can't see it. No, you're not going to be able to back that up. Okay, what he does need to do now is he needs to get out of here and head, no, I'd say turn right and, oh, there's the VK. Okay, so he is coming in. Now, it might be a good idea to head up towards the complex to your left. Try and get a shot on that VK from the right angle. He is low on hit points, that's the problem. He's had quite a few burned up. And now he's got two tanks up against him, a 75mm armed VK3002 who's now very low on hit points, and a P43 Biz who's probably got the, I'd say he's got the 90mm. In fact, I think we know he's got the 90mm. because we blocked a shot from him which hit the tracks, and that was a 90mm round, 240 Alpha. Okay, so he's only got those two. Oh no, Eagle 7. Now that's a derivation of the Pershing. 90mm gun again. Slightly different armour. Okay, poke your head round the corner and see what he's got. There he is. Okay, oh, and that's the P43. And he's out the game. Good shot. Didn't give you much to work with, but you could take him out. I go for the Eagle 7 now. He's only around the corner. He's very low on hit points. And there's the VK at the same time. Have him. Yeah, he's gone. And that's just the Eagle 7. Just wait for the reload to go through. And yes, 3 kills just like that. He's up to 4 kills now. He's the lead scorer on the team alongside the T0OL. There's only 3 enemies left, including that Arty. So that bit of movement actually did really help him, because he cleaned up all the enemy tanks that were in the town, and now he only needs to deal with that Black Prince, and he's very low on hit points. And I think he's decided to go down the tunnel to get at him. No, he's going to go up and over. Now that will make him vulnerable to the enemy in the field, because there's an Aslain out there. And there goes the Black Prince, as well as the AMX-13F3, who's been lobbing rounds at him. Remember, that's the guy who actually managed to get a few hit points off, and there he is. He's just hit our E25. So he's zeroed in on the roof, and that might be dangerous for Mike, because he's low on hit points as well, and the AMX-13F3 might see that. I'm not sure. He will know that Mike's here. He knows the E25's here. He needs somebody to spot. Oh, and the Aslain's spotting us. So we are spotted, and oh, that was the E25. No, the VK3601H dying. So I think that was actually aimed at Mike, but the VK was the one who took the hit. So we know where the Aslain is, and we've gone unspotted now. So we're not being seen, and we can creep up on the Aslain bit by bit. And he's now down to just 1 shot, and he's gone, which means the last enemy is the AMX-13F3, and we know where he is. He's over here. E25's keen to take the kill. There he is. Not sure why Mike's going in this direction. Is he headed for the cap? It's a large tank actually. It has very poor camo qualities, this one. It's also got a poor rate of fire and DPM compared to other tanks. But it does have fairly high pen for the tier and high view range, 380 meters. And they've killed the AMX, so that's the end of the game. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the second class tanker for Mike 1963_1 in the King Tiger captured. The tank that Wargaming gave you and then took away from you again. Yes, because they gave this tank free to anyone who actually had a Twitch Prime account, and if you stopped your Prime account, they would take it away from you. But after a while, they took it away anyway. And then gave you a load of what they call freebies or goodies in return. But it wasn't really goodie, because they were asking you to buy it from there on in. So it was a bit nasty of Wargaming to do that, because after all, they entered into that contract with Twitch Prime to give this tank to Prime members as a bonus. As a free premium tank, and then well, wasn't very nice. Call them Indian givers, you might say, that they gave something to the Indians and then they took it away from them again, which is exactly what happened in America. Anyway, let's he managed to get a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a fighter badge for getting at least 4 kills. He got 4 exactly, a 5 for effect for doing more damage than the hit points to his own vehicle. And Mike did get the high caliber in that game for dealing out the most damage in the game overall. Let's have a look at the team score. Well, there you go, top of the table with 2,723 hit points. The next highest scorer in the game was in fact the Black Prince on the enemy team with 2,261, and the third highest damage was the T-78 on his own team with 2,214. When it came to kills, it was the T-3485M. He was the one who got the kill on the AMX13F3AM in the end, and he got 5 kills. 4 kills went to Mike, and 2 kills went to the E25 on his own team, the AMX M445 on the enemy team, their AMX13F3AM, and their P43 Biz. When it came to base XP, it was Mike who got the highest with 1,120, whilst the Tiger 1 managed to get 1,008, and the T-3485M got 1,006. He fired 15 rounds of 88mm ammunition, got 14 direct hits on the enemy and 14 penetrations. It does have decent pen, even if it's got a very low DPM, this tank, and very slow fire rate. It does have a decent pen, so obviously most of the shots you fire, if you aim them correctly, they are going to hit the target. 2,723 hit points of damage, of which 479 were at more than 300 meters. 12 hits received, only 3 of which actually penetrated, and I think they penetrated because they went in through the hull instead of actually through the turret. I did see a few glancing blows off the turret, and there was 8 non-penetrations in that game and 5 hits by way of splash damage. Yeah, that AMX13F3 didn't leave him alone, and the reason is obviously these tanks have a low hit point pool, which does make them vulnerable to SPG. So if you're in an Arty and you see one of these, good idea to focus on them, because you can probably take away most of his health in next to no time at all. 895 hit points of damage blocked by armor. 1 enemy vehicle spotted, 6 enemy vehicles damaged, 4 killed, 173 hit points of damage assistance, and he got 4 capture points while he was sitting in the gap at the end of the game. He earned 51,423 credits on a premium account, 65,000 for mission completion, and after repair and ammunition resupply took away 86,499 credits profit, 1,120 XP times 2 for the first victory, 840 from personal reserves, 336 for this being a premium vehicle, took away 4,536 experience points altogether. He said, an Arty player playing non-Arty and not being a total noob. Yes, the thing is that Arty players can be very good in other tanks. And, you know, they think that we're incapable of playing other tanks. That's not the truth. You will find many Arty players who are absolute experts in some other tanks. And really, it's wrong for you to say, oh, he's only playing Arty because he doesn't know how to play the game. It's a low and easy way. It's playing Wargaming World of Tanks on easy mode. It's not. These players are very good. They know how to play tanks. They just prefer to play Arty because they like to punish people with Arty. Yes, it's not that we're vicious in mind. We just enjoy plopping shells on people from a long range away. I don't know why. We just like it. It's so much fun being able to see somebody and take them out of the game. And of course, the tank drivers don't understand it, but we do. And we've got tremendous patience, and we'll sit and tactically look at the battle and see which way it's going. Whereas the tank driver, he's just driving around, shooting at what he can see. Whereas we're actually seeing the whole battlefield and realizing what needs to be done. So let's have a look at the armor profile so you can get an idea of what you're up against in the Tiger 2. Well, yep, here's the armor profile for the King Tiger captured. And you can see fairly heavily angled armor, 150mm on the front plate, but with the angling, much like on the Panther, it's only slightly angled, it's not as heavily raked as the T-34, and you've got 200mm effective armor based off that 150 original. The lower plate is fairly weak. You can see here it's only 100mm, 172 you're actually getting with the raking, but that is a weak spot. You can penetrate that area there, so either go for the lower plate, or this is the more traditional place to fire. You can see it says ricochet there, a shell coming in. It's only 40mm armor thickness. With effective armor, because of the angling, it's 83.7. But it is possible to punch through that plate there and not to get a ricochet, either if it's angled slightly down, because of course you'll easily get it, or if you can overmatch that roof with the shell that's coming in. And well, it's only 40mm, so you only need a 122mm round or a 128mm round, and you should easily be able to penetrate that armor. The front round the mantlets, that's fairly tough, 185mm, but that's no angling at all, so that's all you've got. If you look at the sides of the vehicle, you can see 80mm at the side, and fairly slab-sided, slight angling there, but not really effective on the sides of the vehicle, and especially on the sides of the turret as well, 80mm. If you were firing in through the front, through the drive wheel, then you've only effectively got 165.9mm. So yes, again, you can punch through either the lower plate there, even though that's showing effective quite high, you know, 231. But you can penetrate this thing from the front, even if it's angled. You just don't want to get shooting at the turret and actually to bounce off the turret. If he's side scraping you, you might be able to bounce off, because although the impacted armor is only 80mm, it's fairly well angled, and that might make the round careen off. If we look at the cupola, 80mm of armor, effective 164, thereabouts, 130. So yes, you can probably penetrate his cupola. Of course, it's a natural weak spot, and the rear of the vehicle is fairly weak. 80mm on the turret, but it's only 80 down below, and again, fairly slab-sided. Let's have a look at the modules. Well, with the modules, I have to show you the Tiger II, because Wargaming never gave the module map to Armoured Inspectors, so we don't know if they've changed around the modules for the King Tiger Captured, but I doubt that they did. I think they probably left it exactly the same, because basically the King Tiger Captured is a Tiger II. So the information I'm showing you here is for the Tiger II. We've got the transmission up front here. We've got the driver on the right hand side, driver's mate, and the radio is radio operator as well on the left hand side of the front. I can't remember actually if there was a machine gun there, but I think we can check that by looking at the model. No, it's not showing there. Okay, so we'll go back to the modules. Okay, there's an ammo rack. In fact, there's several ammo racks in this vehicle. We'll show the where the other people are in the vehicle. There's the driver, the gunner rather, on the right hand side, and the tank commander directly behind him with that cupola. The loader is on the left hand side, not at the rear of the gun as you'd expect. He's slightly further forward than you'd normally expect. And I think you can see the bustle of the King Tiger Captured is just one huge ammo rack. In fact, actually it's showing us two ammo racks. But all along the sides of the vehicle is also ammo rack. And on this side as well. So either side you punch through that 80mm of armor, you're going to meet an ammo rack on the other side. And at the rear, it's fuel tanks up top on the shoulders, one behind the engine at the top, and two either side of the engine, and another couple of fuel tanks deep within inside the tank. You can see low down, but they're behind the bogies. I doubt you're going to get those. So you can see wherever you look, it's either ammo racks or fuel tanks. And so the chance of you popping the turret on a King Tiger is actually quite high. Just aim for the bustle of these things if you can get it, and you should be able to set one off. And if you can't aim for the bustle, just aim for the sides or the shoulders of this tank, and yes, you've got a lovely little ammo rack which you can set off. So that's where the modules are on the King Tiger Captured. So I hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like, do subscribe to our channel, leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm, and please do let other people know that we're giving all the revenue from this channel to the Red Cross Ukraine appeal to help the refugees coming out of the war. So please do watch as many of our videos as you can, because the more videos you watch, the more money we can send to the refugees. Thanks for watching.